Final chapter.
Katherina's mind was a storm of thoughts and emotions. Her heart pounded in her chest, deafening her to all else except the chilling reality before her. Richard was gone, and she could be next. Her fear turned to desperate defiance, and with trembling lips she forced out a reply. "Are you blind?" she snapped, her voice cracking. "Love is everywhere, especially today. There isn't a single place you can go without seeing it. Hearts, love messages plastered on huge banners, flowers sold on every corner." The more she spoke, the more her voice wavered, her certainty crumbling beneath the weight of her own words. "There's chocolates, roses, proposals, Valentine's dinners." Her voice trailed off as realization began to dawn, her thoughts unraveling. It was all superficial, just shiny hollow shells sold in bulk. Her defiance faltered and the truth hit her like a cold wind. EROS was right. It wasn't love, it was business, an empty performance. But she forced herself to continue, clinging to the one thing she thought could challenge him. "And there's you, or at least what I thought was you. Cupid, he's everywhere. Isn't that love?" EROS froze for a moment, his golden eyes narrowing. Then, to her surprise, his laughter burst forth, sharp and unrestrained, echoing through the hollow chapel like the howling of a beast. It wasn't the mocking, sardonic laughter he'd shown before. It was deeper, more genuine, as if the very idea of Cupid was too ridiculous to contain.
"Oh, Cupid!"
he bellowed, nearly doubling over as his shoulders shook with laughter.
"Cupid!"
He repeated the name with a strange mixture of amusement and disdain.
"A lapse of judgment,"
he muttered between gasps, shaking his head.
"Brought on by centuries of boredom and, well, perhaps a bit of mischief."
He straightened, his face regaining its grim composure, though the lingering amusement still flickered in his wolfish eyes.
"A practical joke,"
he said, his tone hardening, that spiraled out of control. His grin faded completely, replaced by a sneer as he took a step closer to her.
"Much like the joke that humanity has become."
Katherina instinctively stepped back, her legs trembling as the monstrous figure loomed over her, the air growing colder with his presence. His gaze softened slightly, not with kindness but with a strange, almost mournful curiosity.
"I have a tendency,"
EROS began, his voice quieter now, almost introspective,
"to lose myself in reminiscence, but enough of my lamentations."
He leaned down, his face inches from hers, his golden eyes locking onto hers as if peering directly into her soul.
"Tell me then, Katherina,"
he whispered, his voice like silk sliding over a blade.
"and for the last time."
His lips curled into a faint, almost cruel smile.
"After what seems like the blink of an eye, your long life, as you might call it, what does love mean to you?"
Katherina's mind raced, a storm of panic and fragmented thoughts. She replayed the question over and over in her head, searching desperately for an answer that could save her life. But how could she define something she barely understood herself? The most she could muster from her own experience were a handful of failed relationships, the empty ritual of swiping through dating apps, and the fleeting affection of her aloof cat. Affection that only seemed to surface when chicken treats were involved. "Think, Katherina, think," her mind screamed. The seconds dragged on, the weight of EROS's expectant gaze pressing down on her. Her chest tightened, desperation clawing at her insides. "I need to answer. Anything. Anything." Katherina's trembling lips parted, her voice finally finding its way through the thick veil of terror. "Ow. Oh." She didn't finish. The moment the word began to escape her throat, a sharp, icy pain sliced through her neck. Her eyes widened in shock as blood poured down her chest in warm, crimson rivers. Her voice was gone, silenced. She staggered, her legs buckling beneath her as the last of her strength drained away. EROS was on her in an instant, catching her crumpling form with a gentleness that felt profoundly out of place. He lifted her as though she were weightless, his blood-stained hands cradling her fragile, failing body. With deliberate care, he laid her on the stone altar, her body framed by the flickering light filtering through the cracks above. Her vision blurred, the world fading to a haze of muted colors and creeping shadows. EROS leaned down, his wolfish eyes gleaming, his blood-stained lips curling into a faint smile. He whispered in her ear, his voice soft yet unyielding, the weight of his words pressing into her fading consciousness.
You are right, Katherina.
He paused, his breath warm against her cooling skin, before delivering the final damning verdict.
Love is dead.
A single tear slipped down Katherina's cheek as the light in her eyes dimmed. She didn't feel the claws opening her chest, nor the ritualistic precision with which her heart was torn free. EROS cradled the organ in his hands, his golden eyes narrowing as he admired it for a moment, a macabre token of what humanity once understood but had long since abandoned. Without hesitation, EROS brought the heart to his lips, his sharp teeth piercing the tender flesh. As he consumed her essence, a low, guttural hum escaped him, a sound of satisfaction tinged with melancholy. The chapel fell silent once more, save for the sound of dripping blood echoing through its hollow, ancient halls. Katherina's lifeless body lay motionless on the altar, a silent testament to the god's damning proclamation. EROS straightened, wiping the blood from his mouth with the back of his hand. His golden eyes gleamed with a faint flicker of something almost mournful. As he stepped back into the shadows, the faint whisper of his voice lingered in the air, as if carried by an unseen wind.
Love is dead, and so too is hope.